An antique cornet is not just a musical instrument, it's a piece of history, with each note carrying the echoes of generations past. The guests shared that the cornet had been passed down from their great-great-grandfather, George Warren, who served in the Civil War. Warren was a cornet player and a band leader. The cornet had been in the family for generations and in the guest's possession for 35 years. The appraiser described the cornet as a large bore type, having a wider body compared to more slender models. The string rotary valves were activated by levers, and the instrument featured superb engraving, with the bell inscribed E.G. Wright and the original mouthpiece. Remarkably, it also included the original price list from E.G. Wright. Unlike most cornets made of brass or German silver, this one was pure silver, making it extremely rare. The appraiser considered E.G. Wright the foremost brass wind instrument maker in the United States during that period, noting he was born in Boston in 1811, began his work in 1841, and died in 1871, 10 years after this cornet was made. This cornet, being a presentation-grade item in silver, was described as an organological treasure. While estimating its retail value, the appraiser said,
I thought this could sell in a retail environment at about $35,000.
Yeah, that would surprise me.
This pendant and Tiffany diamond necklace is a stunning piece with a rich history. The piece has been used by 4 generations of women in the Guest family.
They weigh about 1 carat each. They're all mined diamonds. And then around it you have another 2 carats of diamonds in platinum.
Pendant features 2 large old mine diamonds, each weighing about 1 carat, surrounded by another 2 carats of diamonds in platinum. The chain had stations of old mine diamonds and marquise diamond, leading to a beautiful pendant. Another feature of the pendant is that it signed Tiffany & Company on both sides, indicating that it was meant to be part of the necklace.
Okay.
I want to show everybody that when we hit the button back here,
there you go.
And wow, it's a lorgnette.
There's a lorgnette.
Also, the chain is crafted in platinum, and the design is very deco, suggesting a creation date around 1920. Altogether, this necklace is a beautifully crafted piece and adds to the overall elegance of the pendant with a combined value of,
including the other pendant at auction, this would bring $30,000 to $40,000.
The guest received a miniature set from his uncle, who was an army officer. This Japanese set, a place setting for 12, was of exceptional quality. Made of bone china, this piece was remarkably translucent and of high quality. Bone china, a type of porcelain, is made from bone ash, feldspar, and kaolin. Dating from around 1952, the set featured intricate floral designs. The appraiser highlighted the exceptional craftsmanship, noting that one-hair brushes were likely used for the painting. The guest mentioned that he took it to a miniature shop, which offered him $75 for it, but he declined. Given its high desirability among collectors, the estimated value was,
I wouldn't be surprised if it went between $1,250 and $1,500.
Oh, my goodness.
Our guest brought an heirloom that has been in their family, passed down from their great-grandfather and grandmother on their father's side. The item is an intricate artwork made of human hair, housed under a glass dome for protection. Hair sculptures like this were popular between 1850 and 1900, known as Victorian hair ornaments or jewelry.
In many cases, they were done from a perspective of mourning, where it was taking a beloved lost one's hair.
However, this particular piece doesn't seem to be a mourning piece, as it appears to be too happy and vibrant. The sculpture is unique, as it is in the form of a tree, which is rare.
Her hair. Now, we see hair wreaths all the time and hair jewelry all the time. What is rare is to see a tree.
While a piece may seem creepy to modern eyes, it reflects the styles and practices of the time. The appraiser notes that while similar hair wreaths typically sell for $100 to $200, a piece like this, especially with its uniqueness as a tree sculpture, could fetch an estimate of,
if you offered it at auction today, I think you could have an estimate of $1,000 to $1,500.
That's very exciting. I don't know that I would ever want to get rid of it.
Our guest print of Buffalo Bill was given to their great-grandfather, who immigrated from Italy to Pueblo, Colorado, and lived on the mesa before moving to Greenhorn by wagon train. Buffalo Bill took a liking to the guest grandfather when he passed through the area, and he gave him this picture. Buffalo Bill was a famous performer and showman, known for his Wild West show, Buffalo Bill's Wild West. This print shows Buffalo Bill in a more subdued outfit, different from his typical fancy frontiersman attire. The print is dated 1907 and was printed by the Courier Litho Company in Buffalo, New York. Although Buffalo Bill's career was not as large in 1907 as it had been in previous years, he was still performing. The appraiser values the print at a jaw-dropping price of...
At auction, I would estimate it between $4,000 and $6,000.
Okay.
The guest brought a pair of hot combs from the Windrush generation. The Windrush generation denotes the people who immigrated from the Caribbean to Britain between 1948 and 1971. When the West Indian ladies came as immigrants, they were having difficulties in getting their hair done from the local white hairdressers. The guest's late cousin used to make these combs specifically for the women of the West Indies origin. He had a basement where he used to visit after work and on weekends to make these combs. He made this pair of hot combs for the guest's wife. These combs were heated on the little stoves and paraffin heaters. The value of these amazing cultural objects was so great for the British Caribbean culture that the appraiser considered it sacrilegious to appraise them. This bowl came from the guest grandmother's home in upstate New York, a house built between 1800 and 1820 on a Revolutionary War land grant. This bowl was made from a large burl, which had to be cut off the tree and then shaped into a bowl. The burl's intermingled grain makes the wood more stable than straight grain.
From looking inside of here that the grain is all swirly. Well, the reason they made it out of burl was because it would stay stable more so than a straight grain would.
The time period of 1815 to 1820 matches the bowl perfectly. This bowl shows wear from use, including tool marks and dough residue, indicating it was well used. It was turned on a lathe, which is evident from the rings underneath, and
Perfectly round. But over the years, it expands and contracts, and it'll contract one way against the grain more so than another.
This bowl's oval shape is due to years of expansion and contraction, as it was originally perfectly round. The appraiser and colleagues believe the bowl is made of ash. The bowl has a nice old surface, which is important for its value. Our guest used the bowl to hold DVDs and videotapes on top of their old TV. In a retail setting, the bowl is worth...
That in a retail setting, this bowl's worth $6,000.
Oh my, oh my.
We are offered a glimpse of a unique blend of form and function in this item, called the Automaton Diorama, which has been in the guest husband's family for generations. This item features a beautiful water scenery with a boat stand and lighthouse crafted from cardboard, encased in a glass dome. To see the diorama in action, a button is pushed at the bottom. Dating back to 1890, this terrific piece was made in Switzerland. Every part of this diorama is perfectly preserved and functional. The value of this piece of folk art, in its pristine condition, is placed at
of $1,500 to $2,000.
Great.
Jimi Hendrix's music and fashion sense has inspired generations of rock and roll fans. His style, particularly his stage outfits, is highly influential. The EMP Museum in Seattle houses some of Hendrix's iconic wardrobe pieces. Celebrity clothing's value for collectors depends on documentation and
documented pieces that were worn during stage performances. The first piece here, a kimono that was worn by Hendrix numerous times, but most importantly during the Newport 69 festival that took place in Devonshire Downs in California.
The first item is a kimono worn by Hendrix during the Newport 69 festival in California. This festival was significant as it was one of the last shows played by the Jimi Hendrix Experience before they disbanded. Hendrix wore velvet pants with this kimono, notably during his legendary performance at Woodstock. The pants are iconic, representing his groundbreaking solo of the Star-Spangled Banner. The kimono, due to its documented provenance and significance, would sell for $75,000 in today's market.
We talked about the pants. We're in a different class altogether, aren't we?
Yeah, there really is no comparable for something that is this iconic. We'd have to go to a different market.
It's because of their iconic status and association with Hendrix's Woodstock performance are in a class of their own. The rock and roll market for memorabilia, while not as high as Hollywood, still values pieces like these extremely highly. Our guest mother was a personal friend of Rene Portocarrero, a renowned Cuban artist in the late 1950s. She saw this painting in Portocarrero's studio in Cuba while it was still wet on the easel. Rene Portocarrero was thrilled by her enthusiasm, and together they searched through flea markets in. The chosen frame has colors that complement the painting, with green and white paint added by Portocarrero himself. Portocarrero is crucial for the development of modernism in Cuba.
And what they did is basically start painting scenes that were endemic to Cuba. And in addition to that, they were using bright colors.
His works are known for their bright colors and lavish application of paint, seen in the impasto technique used in the petals of the flowers. The artist's preference for Baroque frames is evident in this piece, adding his personal touch to the frame. The market for Cuban paintings has been rising due to interest from Cuban immigrants reclaiming their artistic patrimony. The appraiser estimated the value of the painting to be,
We think that this painting is worth in the vicinity of $18,000 to $22,000.
My goodness, that's wonderful.
Our guest discovered the vase at an antique show in Dallas. She was immediately captivated by its beauty, especially with the light under it on a stand. Initially, the vase was not for sale, but she left her contact information with the sellers. In 1987, she finally received a call and purchased the vase for $3,000. The vase is signed Daum Nancy at the bottom, which the appraiser confirmed as authentic. This vase was made around 1900 by the Daum brothers in Nancy, France, a major Art Nouveau center. The decoration features popular violet flowers and an unusual engraved and...
After I bought it, I found Daum Nancy written in gold, printed.
This piece is carved with acid, then enameled and gilded, showcasing a sophisticated technique. The appraiser estimated the current retail value of the vase at...
Well, besides being worth a lot to you, I would put a retail value of probably in the $15,000 range.
Great. That's great.
Our guest brought in 2 dome-shaped boxes that were in their mother's parents' place in New Hampshire. The appraiser was excited, confirming that these types of boxes, with reeded tops, are indeed from New Hampshire. These boxes belong to Mary Churchill, whose initials are on the front, and were likely made by a sweetheart or husband. The appraiser highlighted the special aspect of the boxes, their original paint.
They take all the paint off. I don't want them because they want to get down to the original pine. Thank goodness people in your family to whom these were passed left them alone.
Many similar boxes have had their paint stripped to reveal the eastern white pine wood, which is indigenous to New Hampshire, but these were left in their original state. The preservation of the original paint significantly increases the value of the boxes. The appraiser estimated that, in an auction situation, these boxes would be valued in the...
So I think in an auction situation, these would easily be estimated in the $10,000 to $15,000 range.
Wow.
Really?
And that's with nothing in them.
Who would have thought?
Our guest grandfather bought this fishbowl in New York around the turn of the century, and it has been in his family ever since. Our guest mother had it for about 50 years before it was passed down to the guest.
Likely made as a pair in China, about 1840 to 1860.
The appraiser confirmed it is a Chinese fishbowl, likely made between 1840 and 1860. It was probably produced in Canton, China, known for making export ware for both local merchants and international markets. The fishbowl is a fine example of 19th century Chinese export ware.
As we get into rose medallion ware and other export ware done during the 19th century, it gets very sloppy. We get simple outlines of faces.
The cartouches display finely executed details, with well-outlined red lips and noses, contrasting with simpler export ware from the same period. The fishbowl also features foliate bands and molded mythical beast-simulated ring handles, resembling archaic bronze forms. The appraiser valued the fishbowl at...
Of this quality would be around $6,000 to $9,000.
$6,000 to $9,000? Okay.
Our guest brought in an item that belonged to their grandmother. Our guest mentioned that one of her brothers worked for Coraopolis Glass Company. The appraiser confirmed it was indeed from Coraopolis, but clarified it was made by the Consolidated Glass Company. This item was invented by Reuben Haley around 1926, and it's called a Ruba rhombic. The appraiser expressed excitement, noting it's the first time they've seen a Ruba rhombic on the Antiques Roadshow. Despite some damage on the stopper, which affects the price slightly, the appraiser valued the item for insurance at...
The value of this would be, for insurance, $9,000 to $10,000.
$9,000 to $10,000. Oh my goodness.
It looks like a trophy, but it's really a vase. This green vase is a depiction of Chicago artistry and creativity.
Ware, and they made a rather rectilinear or architectural ware. And obviously we have a fairly architectural piece here.
It's called a Teco vase and was created in Chicago around 1910. In contrast to being called a vase, it is actually called a molded pot. This particular Teco vase is larger than the conventional ones, and this, coupled with the color, enhances its appeal. Despite the damage on its surface, the vase is quality made.
The chips aren't really bad enough. There's scallop shell edge chips that can be repaired.
Do you recommend that?
I would leave it alone myself.
And so, at auction, this vase would retail at...
With more, but still, in the condition it's in, it's a $15,000 piece of pottery.
Oh, my God.
No, this cup-looking item is not a cup per se. It's a type of item called a whistling tankard. Whistling tankards are used during the old days to signal waiters for a refill in pubs. This particular one is more special than you might think because it was made by a silversmith named William Holmes.
Was only 10 years old. Is there anything special about the tankard that you know of?
It's called a whistling tankard. I understand a whistling tankard is where they'd sit in the pub and when it was empty, they'd whistle and the guy would come and fill it up.
William was the nephew of one of America's founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. This tankard was one of the earliest depictions of engineering genius, and this is supported by the whistling mechanism by which the tankard operates.
Here at some point, that has been lost. Whistling tankards are quite rare, and especially in American silver.
At auction, this tankard, thanks to its creator, would be worth...
Valuation, I would put it somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000.
Seriously? Bless his little heart.
This Chinese silk summer court robe, dating from around 1900, is an exquisite example of traditional Chinese court attire. This robe is crafted from lightweight silk, making it suitable for wear during the hot summer months. The fabric is finely woven and displays intricate embroidery, a hallmark of high-status garments from this period. The robe is adorned with vibrant colors, with the dominant hue often being a rich, imperial yellow or blue, reserved for the emperor and high-ranking officials. The designs are meticulously stitched with silk threads, creating detailed and textured motifs. Also, the sleeves are wide and flowing, adding to the robe's majestic appearance that would auction for...
The estimate would put this in the $5,000 to $8,000 range at auction.
Excellent.
Take a look at this captivating portrait. This remarkable piece was painted by Mary E. Hutchinson, and it depicts a woman named Lola, the guest husband's aunt. Mary, the artist, was an art instructor from Atlanta who lived and worked in New York City. As seen, this portrait is a representation of 1920s New York glamour. Mary had a personal connection with Lola, often pursuing her affections during the sittings for the portrait, indicating a deep admiration for her.
All that we know about artists, we know there's often relationships that develop between artists and their sitters.
This portrait captures Lola's stunning beauty, an aspect well documented through photographs taken by the artist.
The manager of the Copa, and she told me that that's how she met a lot of these people, you know, artists and musicians, and kind of how she gained relationships with them.
The painting not only showcases Hutchinson's artistic talent, but also serves as a window into the vibrant social scene of 1920s and 1930s New York. Given the rarity and quality of Hutchinson's work, the portrait would fetch...
We could still say an auction estimate of between $4,000 and $6,000 on this picture.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for bringing it.
This guest presented a Rolex Submariner he acquired through a friend who traveled to Hong Kong.
He came back with this watch for me. I've run with it, I've surfed with it, I've scuba dived with it, I've orienteered with it, I've backpacked with it.
This piece is a driver's model featuring the desirable Submariner printed in red ink on the dial, confirming its authenticity. The watch exhibits several condition issues, such as a faded bezel insert from black to gray, a stretched-out bracelet missing end pieces, and a scratched acrylic crystal. The dial, crucially, remains untouched and original. These aspects contribute to its collectible charm. Additionally, the preservation of the original paperwork is particularly noteworthy, as it is uncommon. In today's market, this watch model is highly sought after by collectors and would sell for.
This watch today easily retails for $20,000 to $25,000.
He bought it at a local auction labeled as Tibetan. He purchased it between $100 to $125. Designed for decoration, it exudes a macrame charm with the ancient practice of using human skulls as drinking vessels. A Sino-Tibetan capella blends Chinese and Tibetan influences in a skull cup, or ritual object. This synthetic stone was meant to hold a bezor stone, a secretion from goat stomachs. The small almond-shaped stone was believed to be an antidote to poison, believed to counteract any attempts at poisoning by enemies. This shows cultural interplay and the lasting significance of Buddhist symbolism. Intrigued by its fusion of Chinese and Tibetan elements, the appraiser valued the item.
It's worth a few $100s, but certainly it's got to be one of the most bizarre things we've seen on the Roadsshow.
Olive Edis, an early 20th century photographer, holds a significant place in the history of photography.
To come to Chroma and to get to talk about someone that I know, who I consider to be extremely important in the history of photography.
The museum has preserved the largest collection of her work for around 10 years. Edis pioneered techniques and proved herself equal to men in a male-dominated field. Remarkably, she became the first official British woman war photographer during the First World War. Edis's self-portrait exemplifies her talent for capturing deep emotion and humanity. Another notable work is her portrait of Betcha Johnson, showcasing her dedication to documenting local fishermen.
And it's a portrait of a local fisherman. And I say the reason it ties in is because she's wearing a sou'wester there.
One of her cameras, used by the London celebrity photographer Rinking, is also part of the collection. Edis's collection is nationally important, and while valuing it might seem unusual, understanding the market is essential. Her photographs, such as the portrait of a fisherman, can fetch between
A photograph like this of a fisherman, it could cost you £700 to £1,000, something like that at auction. But to me, owning a piece of history.
An 18th century piece of jewelry worn by both men and women to suspend a watch.
Of the Wedgwood piece she had acquired, and I fell in love with the Fusey wine watch.
This chatelaine includes a late 18th century Fusey wind watch signed by Geneva watchmaker Philippe Toureau. It features cut steel, polished and faceted to imitate precious stones, and elements of Wedgwood jasperware, a ceramic imitating cameos, signed by Josiah Wedgwood. Additionally, it includes glass bead tassels, gold-colored objects, a lorgnette, and a key. The guest mother acquired the chatelaine during a trip to England. Though made from genuine 1790 to 1800 components, the chatelaine was likely assembled from various pieces. While a pristine Wedgwood chatelaine might be worth more, this assembled piece is valued at.
One has to look at the watch and the pieces together, and my best guess is that this is something that will be worth about, let's say, $1,000 to $1,200, made up of all the individual pieces.
A vintage lithograph poster from around 1920 showcased an aircraft from Aeromarine West Indies Airways. The guest acquired this piece at an outdoor flea market in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 35 years ago. As a former player in the aviation industry, the guest was drawn to the poster's aviation theme.
But the aviation theme appealed to me because that was my business at one point.
Resonating with his past business endeavors involving turboprop aircraft leasing. Designed by artist Winchell in New York, this lithograph provides a glimpse into Cuban history, featuring landmarks such as the Castillo de Tres Reyes del Moro. Such rarity and historical significance make it a prized addition to any collector's trove. Despite its faded condition, this rare find is estimated to be worth between...
In my opinion, were this to come up for auction now, an estimate would be between $4,000 and $6,000.
Wow. Carved sapphire ring marked Cartier and adorned with a beautiful flower motif dates back to around 1920 to 1925. It features a Ceylon sapphire known for its lighter color and exquisite design, and it was acquired at a flea market. The guest received the carved sapphire ring as a heartfelt gift from her husband.
So years ago, this is a carved sapphire. I would say right around 1920 to 1925. Okay.
Its platinum shoulders are accented with small diamonds in a triangular shape and enhanced by black enamel, which is in excellent condition. An incredible sapphire is bezel set with no prongs, and the piece is signed Cartier, indicating it is a New York creation. Its base metal is platinum with 14-karat white gold on the bottom. This stunning piece with a Ceylon sapphire has an auction estimate of...
I would say auction estimate would be between $5,000 and $7,000.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Great, thank you.
A Dutch painting attributed to Andries Vermeulen, a late 18th to early 19th century artist,
Attributed, there's a plaque on it that says Andries Vermeulen, and I did look him up once. He's a Dutch painter of the late 1700s, early 1800s.
has been in the family for about 60 years, originally purchased by the guest's grandfather in Michigan. This oil-on-canvas piece, which has been relined, features a beautifully detailed Dutch skating scene, capturing various small, lively moments typical of the period style. It boasts labels from reputable galleries like Frost and Reed in London and Daniel Rees in Michigan, enhancing its authenticity. The canvas's age, the paint's condition, and the detailed execution all support its authenticity. Although the market for 18th and 19th century Dutch works has softened since the 1990s, the current conservative auction estimate for this painting is between...
However, if I were to put this painting at auction today, I would put a conservative auction estimate of $10,000 to $15,000 on it.
Okay. This tankard is a fine example of the fusion of Chinese artistic techniques and Western functional forms, a hallmark of Chinese export silver. The tankard is made of high-quality silver and features intricate repousse work, which involves hammering the silver from the inside to create a raised design on the outside. The handle of the tankard is elegantly shaped and is adorned with additional decorative elements, providing both a practical grip and an artistic flourish. Overall, this Chinese export silver tankard exemplifies the skillful artistry and cross-cultural influences that characterize Chinese export silver, making it a treasured collectible that's worth...
If this is to come into auction, I would estimate it at $2,000 to $3,000.
Okay, very good.
This painting is a family heirloom passed down through generations. The guest inherited it from his mother, who inherited it from his great-aunt. This oil painting on a canvas was created by Maynard Dixon. Dixon was an American artist known for his paintings that focused on the American West.
He stayed with them at their ranch. At least that's the family legend. Mm-hmm. Tom was a rancher. He was out growing grain and alfalfa.
And was popularly known as the Last Cowboy in San Francisco. The painting is of the guest's great-aunt and uncle's ranch in Oregon. It was done in 1913 when Dixon stayed with the guest's great-aunt and uncle. The painting is a very good example of his work, and it depicts a typical Western landscape.
The use of some of the heavy impasto here in the lower right, just above the inscription. The view is very interesting to me.
Bearing his signature, this original piece of oil painting on canvas can only have a value estimate of...
We believe that if offered at auction, an auction estimate in 2022 would be $50,000 to $80,000. My goodness.
The collection was amassed out of a profound reverence for her, and she's a collector for over 30 years. In the 19th century, women's accessories were essential for both fashion and social identity. During that time, pockets held a variety of items, and if a string unraveled, there was a chance of losing both the pocket and its contents. With a side slit in the dress, one could reach into the pocket hidden within to pull out the items. This apron is evident that it opens down the back. This thin seam indicates a short bodice at the back, placing its likely date around 1805. Each piece tells a story about the fashion trends, social norms, and craftsmanship of the era. Revealing its significance, the appraiser valued the item.
The value of your collection, it's worth quite a lot of money, $6,000 to $8,000.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you very much.
Every artist brings their perspective to their work, and this artist approach is especially unique. This Venetian view oil painting is a captivating piece of art, painted by the Boston artist George Noyes, who gained fame in the early 20th century as an American impressionist. This piece reflects Noyes' mastery of impressionist techniques. As seen, the painting showcases a lovely palette with vibrant colors and impressionistic strokes, almost verging on pointillism. This use of color and technique beautifully captures the essence of a Venetian scene.
A car being bounced down the road, just pop, 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 and made it split. Now that can be repaired. They can butterfly that together, and they have other ways of doing it, and then painting that out. So it'll help.
Despite the condition issues, this painting retains its charm and artistic value, reflecting its worth as a piece by an accomplished impressionist artist, and at auction would fetch.
Cleaned up like that, you'd probably expect to be asking about $10,000 for it. No kidding. Yeah.
The Presentation Lap Desk, circa 1795, represents portable writing convenience in the late 18th century. The guest got lucky at a sale of Mount Vernon items. A family member of Martha Washington sold many things from their estate, including items from Mount Vernon. The guest bought this item directly from that family member around 1981 to 1983 for maybe between $1,000 and $3,000. The appraiser pointed out the special history of the box, showing a silver plaque that said, Marquise de Lafayette gave this to Eliza Parke Custis, who gave it to her daughter, Eliza Law. They talked about how Lafayette helped America in the Revolutionary War, and how Eliza relates to Martha Washington. The appraiser mentioned that when opening it, you see a lap desk, like a lady's writing desk, for when she travels. On top, there are tools like a small brush for ink, an inkwell for pens, and maybe a spot for sealing wax. There's a note inside saying it was given to Eliza Parke Custis, who then gave it to her daughter in 1823. Another longer letter inside talks more about it, and mentions it was sent by the Marquise de Lafayette, who is French. While estimating the worth of the box, the appraiser said,
place a pre-sale estimate of somewhere from $30,000 to $50,000.
This large hexagonal jar is always the center of attention. It was purchased by a guest at a private sale. Observing the surface of the jar, we can't help but notice the distinctive blue color, which is darker than usual, proving that this piece is a Japanese ware called Imari. The jar was made in Arita, Japan, circa 1680 to 1720. Upon further inspection of the body glaze, we can notice crackles, which formed as a result of tension between the body of the vase and the glaze. Although jars like these were made in Japan, they were mainly exported for the Western market.
If you look closely to the glaze in certain places, you'll notice that there's a crackle to the glaze.
With its size and rich history, this delicate jar would fetch an auction value of
a jar like this. This jar's worth between $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow.
The statue is a religious figure, showing a bodhisattva of compassion from Chinese Buddhism. The guest shared that the figure in question is an Asian piece that belonged to their grandmother, who acquired it in the late 1800s or early 1900s. It was a gift from a suitor who traveled to Asia and brought many items, including this one. The guest assumed it was made of brass, but was unsure of its significance. The appraiser identified the figure as a Chinese gilt bronze Buddha, noting that the gilding was in excellent condition, not worn or rubbed. They explained that gilt bronze figures can resemble polished bronze. This particular piece is from a school of 33 multi-armed deities, representing the Bodhisattva of compassion. The many arms, first seen in Indian Buddhism and later adopted by the Chinese, show the different ways the Buddha of compassion guides people towards enlightenment. The appraiser dated the piece to around 1650, noting its remarkable condition for a 17th century bronze. The appraiser observed missing parts, but still praised the figure's quality. They pointed out the strong features like the eyes and nose, the red color on the mouth, the detailed jeweled chest, and the lotus designs on the robe. They also saw some corrosive pigment and cleaning solution residue, and recommended having the figure cleaned and stabilized. While praising the figure, the appraiser said,
"Speaking to value in a retail setting, this would be $40,000.
Wow. Had no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Exhibited on the show is a vessel fit for royalty. A jeweled ewer brought onto the show by this guest has been in his family for years. This piece was made by the Copeland Company circa 1860 to 1880. The ewer bears the maker's mark at its bottom, authenticating that it was indeed made by Copeland, and it boasts of beautiful hand-painted designs. Also featured on the body of the ewer is a neoclassical shape, which masks at the front and back. Additionally, the handle of the ewer is elaborately decorated, and some gold paint is visible. Historically, a ewer like this would have been made for the wealthy, judging by its elaborate designs. At auction today, it is estimated to be worth
It would be worth somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500.
Trot into the world of equestrian elegance with this sterling silver horse. The guest inherited the shimmering horse figure from her grandmother, and the guest inscribed the title Fargo on the plinth when she was 11 years old. Although two of these horse figures were commissioned by the guest grandparents, only this one was presented.
Trophy.
Where do you think it's from? Any ideas?
I thought England, only because my grandfather and my great-grandparents traveled extensively.
Right.
Originating from England, this item bears the English trademark on the rear leg and is dated 1928. This piece is likely a reproduction of the work of John Willis Good. John Willis was an English sculptor, well known for his animalar figure work.
Sadly, from a gunshot wound to the head, it was very common that horses by John Willis Good were reproduced in sterling silver, which this one is.
Furthermore, this horse figure was crafted from sterling silver, featuring a very naturalistic cast with superb detailing of the hair of the coat, hooves, and tail. The provenance of this item is remarkable, and in such pristine condition, at auction, it would be valued at.
Oh, okay.
At auction, I would estimate this probably to sell for around $6,000 to $8,000.
Wow.
Preserving cultural heritage is key when it comes to antique collection. This guest hails from the Catawba tribe of Native Americans.
Kill, South Carolina.
So what did you bring today?
Some pottery from Sarah Ayers. She is a master potter.
She purchased this pottery set made by Native American icon Sarah Ayers. Also hailing from the Catawba tribe, Sarah was well known for her contemporary Catawba pottery. She worked to save the art of Catawba pottery from becoming a lost art. Of the many examples of her works, these pieces stand out as some of the best. These pots bear remarkable designs and aren't glazed, but are made of burnished natural clay.
They were coiled. They weren't turned on a wheel. These were built up of little coils of clay and then smoothed off. So a big pot like that took a long time to do.
The colors on the pots are the natural hues of the burnished clay used to make them. The pots are signed and dated 1970 by the artist. Catawba pottery holds great significance to the Native Americans, and this set, in an auction, could cost about.
Came up at auction today. I would expect that pot to sell for probably $2,500 to $3,500.
What?
The guest acquired a painting from her mother as a gift.
Then I started liking daisies, and she gave it to me for my new house.
The painting, titled Daisies, was crafted in 1940 by George Copeland Alt. He was loosely grouped with the Precessionist movement, known for urban and geometric imagery.
There's Impressionism from the Surrealists, the Cubists. Put them all together, added a bit of a dash of American folk art as well.
Although influenced by Cubism and Surrealism, his most lasting work is a realist nature. Interestingly, this floral piece in watercolor and gouache is a departure from Alt's usual urban and rural landscapes. On the backboard, there's a dedication to Jenny from George and Louise, dated 1942, which might have been the guest mother's neighbor. Later on in his career, Alt struggled with alcoholism and failing eyesight and eventually passed away. Despite his hardships, his widow worked hard to cement his reputation as an artist. However, this piece is an outstanding example of the artistry of a visionary painter, and it's worth,
I think at auction, fair estimate would be $8,000 to $12,000.
Okay.
The guest discovered this Confederate belt buckle in his father's cotton field while hunting in Alabama in 1963. The guest recognized it as a Confederate belt buckle featuring 11 stars and the initials CS, which stands for Confederate States. The appraiser mentioned that this buckle was made by the firm Leach and Rigdon, who relocated to Mississippi after the fall of Memphis during the Civil War. He mentioned that it was a cast brass buckle, the most desirable style ever made. The guest mentioned that 2 of the points had been cut off by a plow, so he tailored it a little and used it for 20 years. The guest mentioned that he had received various offers for the buckles over the years, with the highest offer reaching $3,000 in 1985. The appraiser noted that if the buckle had all its original hooks, it would be worth significantly more. However, given its current condition, he valued it at,
even though it's had the hooks replaced on it, I would ask between $10,000 to $12,000.
Wow.
Vases hold important as art, reflecting specific cultural and historical periods. The appraiser asked what the guest had bought, which was a Lalique vase. The guest said they got it from a friend who passed away around 1980. The friend had moved to New York City to be a model, but missed her family and came back to Minneapolis. The vase was a gift from the Kellogg family to this friend. The appraiser confirmed it was a Lalique vase, showing the R. Lalique signature and some factory numbers. He identified the vase as the Espalion model, first made in 1927, noting its original blue frosting. He noted René Lalique's fame as a jewelry and glassmaker by the early 1900s. The appraiser described the vase as very pretty, with a fern pattern and nice color. However, he questioned if the rim had been buffed or cleaned to remove chips, which could lower its value. The guest did not know if any changes had been made. The appraiser suggested checking Lalique's catalog to verify the rim, noting that buffing could have its value. While estimating the price of the vase, the appraiser said,
in blue has sold at auction as much as $5,000.
Really?
$5,000.
Okay.
However, if in fact the rim has been buffed a little bit, that would diminish the value.
Right.
This is a dower chest with some artistically pleasing paintings. The guest has brilliant eyes for paintings, so he acquired this piece in the 1970s. The Pennsylvania dower chest were typically made by Germans settling in Pennsylvania in the late 18th century. A closer look at the item, we can deduce the paintings of tulips in vases, which symbolizes love, because dower chests were used by young unmarried women to collect household linens in anticipation of marriage. Coincidentally, the guest had personal ties to this very piece. It was made in the same county as the guest's mother and grandmother had lived.
And my mother and grandmother lived in this town, the town of Somerset in Somerset County.
Rural Pennsylvania. Isn't that a coincidence? You were in California buying a chest, and it turns out your family lived in the county it was made.
Glaring to us are the unfaded moldings on the piece. However, with some repairs done, at auction, this iconic object of love is retailed at...
The piece would easily be valued at $9,000.
Uh-huh. Terrific.
You didn't do bad.
Fantastic.
Comfortable and majestic are 2 of the adjectives best describing these chairs. Well designed and crafted, these chairs were given to the guest by her mother. The chairs were designed by a famous architect and designer of the early 20th century, Leonard Wallick, known for his contributions to residential architecture and interior design.
And I'm going through all the pages of the book, and I look, and there are the chairs.
These chairs were made to complement Walik's architectural designs, and their designs are drawn from European origins and blended with American architectural traditions.
I have these chairs because there's only 5 pieces that he knows of in the United States that exist, and these were 2 of them.
The wood used to create this masterpiece is walnut, and they were crafted by Alfred Nygaard. Nygaard's works are known for their detailed craftsmanship and intricate designs, which are evident in this piece. This pair of chairs, designed by one of America's foremost designers and crafted by a skilled craftsman, is a top-notch piece of furniture and would fetch a sum of...
As an auction estimate, I think the pair would sell for $8,000 to $12,000. But if all the stars aligned, could do 2-3 times that.
We are all fascinated with paintings for various reasons, and a look at this painting presented today is sure to fascinate anyone with the artist brushwork. This work was done by a French painter of the School of Paris who specialized in cityscapes, Maurice Utrillo.
Well, he had a problem with alcohol and other illnesses. He painted a lot of outside his window or painted a lot from his home. This is one of those views.
As with most of Utrillo's work, this painting depicts a French cityscape, evident by the French flag painted in it. The piece is an oil-on-paper painting and is signed by the artist to show its authenticity. Thick layers of paint, referred to as the impasto technique, give texture and depth to this painting. A fine and captivating work of art, this painting not only captures a cityscape of old France, but also the hearts of art lovers, and as such would be auctioned at...
I think that this would bring at auction somewhere in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $120,000.
Wow.
A look at these handbags makes one wonder about the thought process behind their craftsmanship. This unique set of handbags was given to the guest by her mother. The bags were made by a company started by Judith Lieber.
The 60s or the 70s, she carried them to balls, and they were quite unusual, and I think they're very beautiful.
Lieber was a Hungarian-American fashion designer and businesswoman who started the Judith Lieber Company. As with most of Lieber's works, these bags feature crystal minaudières and are made of metal shell plated with silver and adorned with various forms.
These bags are in museums like the Metropolitan Museum or the Smithsonian. She always had a very great sense of humor.
One of these bags is adorned with a sitting lion form that showcases Lieber's out-of-the-box thinking. It's fascinating to know that all the bags presented today are hand-done, which adds to their elegance even more. These bags are unique, elegant, and exude class befitting their creator, and as such, individually, would be worth
the shell bag. I would say this at auction would be about $1,200.
Wow.